We bring in the director of content for Elite Prospects. He is at the Four Nations tournament in Montreal. It is Cam Robinson and his very artsy friend there. What in
is that a hockey insider whispering
God's name
rumors?
Is that, Cam? Do you have
Where do you guys think I get my information from, right?
Yes.
I just lean in and I listen to what she has to say, and she gives me all the information I need. Yes, very, very artsy back here today. It's nice.
Yeah.
This is very distracting.
Quite beautiful. For those on podcast, he has a woman's face.
In iron? What is it?
Yeah, what is that?
It's black paint. It looks like it's iron,
it's just paint. Oh, okay.
It's just paint. Okay. Yeah. She's just painted on the all the way up to the ceiling too. It's pretty fancy up here on the Rue de something in Montreal. Yeah.
She seems to be giving you a kiss. The way this is framed.
Got to get my wife off this show. She's gonna be getting jealous here.
Was it chef's kiss last night in Montreal? Was it perfection from a hockey standpoint? What'd you think?
Boy, oh boy, that was easily the most fun probably I've ever had at a rink.
Really?
That was so fast, so much fun, especially because so many people were, maybe it was just on Twitter mostly, but they were, really ragging on this tournament, calling it kind of a gimmick and, not best on best. And these guys are going to treat it like an all-star game. But like speaking to the players before puck drop, and even before, as the teams were being named, these guys wanted to be here. Olympic jobs were on the line. I felt it was going to be highly intense hockey and they were going to bring it. And boy, did they bring it. That was incredibly fast. So much fun to be a part of and just to be in the rink for that. The atmosphere was incredible, starting with the chance of Mario at the beginning of the game when Lemieux came out and finishing with chance of Crosby as he was named player of the game. Just an amazing experience last night. And it's that's how we start on day one. Let's see how it goes on through the rest of this thing too. It's some good hockey over here.
There is nothing like a Montreal crowd. There is nothing like a pregame ceremony at the Bell Center. And the Stars came out to play, including the best of them all, 87. Do you think beyond the building that people are going to invest here emotionally?
If they were watching last night on TV, it'd be hard not to. I'm assuming that that speed and skill translated through the cameras and onto our screens at home for people who are watching at home. It's I asked some of the players afterwards too, what's it like to just know that you can basically do anything out there on the power play at 5-on-5 and you have your line mates are right there with you. Speed, skill wise, you can't make a play that's going to surprise anyone, which you can see some of these super elite players do. So if fans haven't tuned in yet or aren't invested, I think that they should probably get on this. I know it's, there isn't the best players in the entire world is because they can't make teams for them at this state. Although they did announce that they're going to do the World Cup in 2028, and that'll be really interesting to see how many teams they put in that one, if they can fill out with NHL rosters. But no, I think people should get involved, get invested in it. There's a lot of national pride going on with these players. They want to win. And then they want to continue that on and make their Olympic teams and go win that next year too. So there's a lot on the line, and these guys are playing hard.
What do you make of a World Cup in the middle of the season? They've previously done that as a September tournament, and so now they're just committed every 2 years. They're stopping the league for 2 weeks to do one of these tournaments. For the Olympics, I get it. I think you can get the guys to invest their bodies into the Olympics for 2 weeks and the grind of that. I almost think, and I know we didn't love the September date, but I almost think that for the World Cup, which doesn't have the pride, instilled into it like the Five Rings do, I almost think you are better off in September. How about you?
Yeah, I would have been fine with it being in September. I don't mind it being in February. I think that it's, it gives a lot of players a nice little break mid-season that they can go down to Mexico and they can chill out and they can kind of recoup. And then these guys that are the very best, right? The very best of the best, they get an opportunity to go and play against the very best players, which is, not great for their club teams as they wear down a little bit as the season goes on. But when you're looking at the player's experience as a career on a whole, they want to go and play against the very best. You can see these guys were itching for it. They've been waiting so long for it. So I think doing it every 2 years also makes sense, is that it gives them, especially the very good players that also play on really good teams and go on deep playoff runs, that they do have a year in between where they can find a little bit of rest, hopefully, throughout the season or with an all-star break or whatever. So every 2 years, I'm fine with it. Like I said, I'm just really curious how they're going to, if they do try to bring 8 teams to the World Cup, Gary Bettman was saying like they're going to be our players. It's like, well, there's only a couple other countries that you can really fill out with NHL talent. So that would be really interesting. I was joking around with a buddy before I came on here, and they'll be having players marrying for green cards to go play for Germany or something like that. So Canadian guys can get over there that wouldn't crack Team Canada.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Elias Pettersson. You have the report they've taken him off the market. Cam, it sounds like they weren't entirely impressed with the offers they were getting for Elias, but you tell me, why take him off the market at this stage?
I don't think it was that they weren't impressed with the offers. I think that there was a number of teams that offered significant packages that, were intriguing to them. I think what it was more along the lines of is that they moved JT Miller, and now they're going to see how everybody responds. Elias, is the number one. And so, he had a couple of strong games there down the stretch before the break, and we're starting to see the switch hasn't flicked yet with the Canucks, but he started to look better. He started to look like himself a little bit more with some urgency in his game. That setting up Hronik for that goal, ringing it off the pipe. He was just involved in everything in that last game before the break. I think that they're hoping that they can find that Elias Pettersson that, it was just a year ago when he was heading to Toronto for that NHL All-Star game. He was playing at a 45-goal, 109-point pace. That was 1 year ago. So it's not that far removed from him being a true superstar in this league. And so Vancouver, he's 26 years old. I think they think like everybody else is that he can get back to that level. And so they're no longer in a rush. They were at a crossroads there with Miller and him, is that something had to go. Something had to happen. And it did. And Miller ended up moving. And so now, they've told teams, people kept coming with offers and saying things like that. And they basically said like, sure, they'll pick up the phone and they'll listen to anything ever, because that's just, you'd be derelict in your duties not to. But he's not on the market anymore. Now, does that change at the draft? If he doesn't find his legs, or if he's a no-show in the playoffs again? Possibly, probably, right? Is that they'd start listening once again. But as it stands right now, I'm told from a few different sources that, yeah, they're not actively shopping him, and they're not really interested in moving him at this time.
Do you, let me ask this 30 Mitsubishi poll question. Do you believe the Four Nations will help Elias?
Wish you asked me this yesterday. I'll still say yes. I'll still say yes.
It was a lot easier
right?
question yesterday.
It was a lot easier while he was sitting there. I was watching him take shots late in practice after practice yesterday, and he's having some fun out there. Like it was fun to see, doing line rushes with Forsberg and Kempe, and he burned one bar down, and all the boys are hooting and hollering as he came in on a 3-on-2 rush, and he's got a big grin on his face, and the power play work there flowing, everything was looking good, and it looked like he was relaxed and lighter and reinvigorated a little bit, talking to him before the games too, and after practice. And then, not so great last night. To be fair though, there weren't that many Swedes that really stood out, in that game. And he did some good things defensively. I thought he was being responsible. He was covering for pinching D and making some good plays in the neutral zone and making some good passes, but offensively just, handcuffed himself on a 2-on-1 late, flubbed on the one-timer and overtime. Like he just wasn't there, wasn't clicking. But hopefully he can find his legs, and it can be kind of a launching pad for him as he comes back to Vancouver.
I know these are the best players in the world, but what we did see last night was shoots and scores goals too, though. Like Kempe and Marner's goals, and even the first one for Sweden, Brodin goal too. Yeah. Like I just wish Pettersson would realize that, with his shot, which can be good, like shoot the puck. Like you never know what's going to happen. And I know he tried on the one-timer and overtime and it didn't work out, but and that's great that at least he was loaded up and ready to go on that one. But you just hope that some of this sinks in, that you can be that guy. If those guys do it, you can do it. You can do it too.
Oh, absolutely, right? Like his shot is supreme, and his coach for Sweden there, he got a front row seat to him developing that shot with Vekwa years ago, right? Like that's when he became that pure shooter, that elite shooter, back in whenever it was 2018. So we're hoping that kind of reconnect with that coaching staff too was going to help kind of inspire some things. Is that shoot the puck, right? There wasn't a lot of time and space out there, I will say. That was so fast, and Canada was even when kind of the ice shifted a bit after the great 10 minutes for Canada to start the game and Sweden started to push back, there still wasn't a lot of like grade A chances there. So Brodin's shot was like, a perfectly placed shot, but not a lot of room for him to get it off. Kempe, that was a weak goal, I would say, on Binnington. But yeah, Pettersson, he's got to find some of those. He's got to find himself in the slot and let her rip, right? He seems like he double clutches a lot right now, and that's maybe a confidence thing still. And so he's just got to do it, right?
Would you start Aiden Hill Saturday against the States? Do you think Cooper will start Aiden Hill Saturday against the States?
I think it's hard. I don't think Bennington was bad. Like I said, I didn't like the Kempe goal. I thought that was a weak one. The whatever the Brat set up on the goal line one, that was gorgeous, right? Like or maybe it was Raymond who slid it across. And the Brodin one was like a seeing eye bar down. So it's like he was great in overtime. He made some big saves. If I'm guessing that they're going to go back with him against the U.S. and then maybe they give Hill a look against Finland to keep him rolling, keep his reps up and have him ready to go in case they needed him. Or if Bennington has a bad game against the U.S., obviously, but probably a short leash on him. Maybe, but I think that from the way they were talking before the tournament started, the media availability, it sounds like he is their guy. He got a win and he was great in overtime, so I expect that they'll roll him out there again.
And Aldergrove, Shea Theodore are going to miss the rest of the tournament. And for those who don't know, you have to dip below 18 skaters so before you can replace a player on the roster. So Canada's at least going to have 6 defensemen, the full complement available to them on Saturday, but there would be no replacements unless you get more injuries from here. And you tell me, Cam, for Mark Stone, who of course is his teammate, or for any of the players, do they see something like that and do we wonder how that might affect the intensity of these games when we see an injury that's going to cost a player the tournament and perhaps beyond? I mean, it was everything we were talking about heading into this one, right? Like, gosh, hope Hughes doesn't get hurt there. He's got nicked. What do you think? Do you think the Theodore injury will create a chilling effect on the intensity of these games?
No, I don't think so. These players are just such elite competitors, right? They knew what they signed up for when they came here, and it was to play international hockey. And John Cooper said it before the game. He's like, I expect this to be as intense as any international competition at this level. And I think it's going to continue to be. Obviously, it's a huge blow for Canada to lose Shea Theodore. And it's a blow to him personally. I mean, Vegas is probably pumped about it. There's some more LTIR, right? They'll just go trade for Noah Dobson or something here in a heartbeat. But no, it sucks for him. It sucks for the team. Travis Sanheim will come in and that he's having a really strong year too. And then they have that gentleman's agreement too, that if they can't roll out the 18 guys, that they could airlift someone in. I was trying to find out this morning if they had alerted anyone yet to kind of be on watch and maybe have a return flight from Mexico booked just in case they need him, an Ev Bouchard or someone like that, or Chris Tanev. Couldn't get anything for you before here, but yeah, I think that it's going to remain super intense, and I really can't wait for that USA-Canada game on Saturday night, because I think that one's going to be downright ferocious.
Before we say goodbye, we should touch on some things that are happening within the Canucks organization just a little bit for your Elite Prospects beat. And that is maybe the most decorated and, not even decorated, just the best quality lineup that Manny Malhotra's had to work with going back to Tuesday night, where everybody was there that you'd expect to be on that AHL roster, including Elias Pettersson, who had been sent down, of course, for some duty while the NHL had shut down.
He didn't play Tuesday.
Tuesday he did.
Oh, did he?
Yes. Wednesday he did not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. My bad.
But he continues to play well, does Elias Pettersson. Jonathan Lekramaki is on the score sheet each and every game over the past couple of goals and assists. Pettersson has worked his way into the NHL squad. Is there any chance Lekramaki can do what Elias Pettersson has done?
I mean, if he keeps this up, they're going to have to give him another look, right? You have 16 or 17 goals in 27 games, like on a per game basis down in the AHL. He is second in goals per game among players who have 20 or more games. Now, if we drop that metric down to 19 games, all of a sudden he's third, because Linus Karlsson is first in the league in goals per game if we drop that down. So, they have a lot of scoring down there on the farm, but what Lekiramaki's doing, that's all players. We're not talking rookies. We're not talking U21, which he fits into both those categories. We're talking all players in the American League, is that he is one of the most dynamic finishers through the first, 30 games of his career down there. And that's truly impressive. And so he is obviously, the backup plan if the team ends up moving Brock Besser at the deadline or if he just walks in the summer. He is quite clearly the replacement there. But I think that for a team that still needs more goals, if you can inject him back into the lineup and you can find a little quick goal scoring for him and kind of get on a roll. Again, we talked about it earlier in the year, is that you bring him up, you put him into really beneficial spots. See if he can get hot for a minute. As soon as he gets cold, boom, you pull him out, right? It's you just work with him and like that. And that's because that's how goal scorers go, especially young ones, because you don't want him getting into a slump and then he's not bringing anything. He's not helping defensively. He needs to be in the lineup cooking. And if he's not, back to the AHL, work on it, get hot again, come on back up. And as that goes along down the season stretch, I think that would be beneficial for him, especially long term, just getting those reps in the NHL too.
Is there any value for some of the other guys that have raised some eyebrows there in Kudryavtsev and Ratu towards the trade deadline? Or are those prospects that you think that they value a lot as prospects and they don't want to leave?
As trade chips, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like if the right trade presents itself, I think they need to figure out what they are, their identity. Like, are they buying? Are they actually buying? Are they keeping Besser without an extension and they're using him as their own rental, and then they're going to shop around a little bit and maybe add another defenseman, maybe add another scoring winger or something like that? If so, then sure. Like, I mean, if that's what they decide to do and this is the window, then players like Ratu or Kudryavtsev even could be pieces that are expendable if you can get a player, especially one that's under term even for a little bit. But even as a rental, I think that those are expendable pieces long term. You don't move Tom Wielander, you don't move Lekkerimäki. Those are basically your only untouchables. We saw them move Fernstrom already, right? Their first pick in the draft last year, so they're not afraid to move out bodies at this point. But they really need to find out what their identity is. I know they're cooking a little 6-1-1 down the stretch there before the break. If that keeps going, I think that's exactly what they'll do. They'll want those playoff gates. They'll want that revenue. And then, they'll probably be shopping those prospects in their picks too.
Tom Wielander plays his final game for Boston University regular season March 8th. His season could extend all the way to the Frozen Four in St. Louis to April 12th. So it's a huge swath there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a full month. Boston U is ranked. I mean, I suspect they'll play some postseason, so it will likely fall somewhere in the middle there. Yeah. Cam, you have a wonderful weekend there with your lady and the hockey.
This is a family show. This is a family show.
My shirt on, Blake.
Great intensity, great ceremonies at the Bell Center, and great art installations in Montreal hotel rooms. Thank you, Cam. Until next week, buddy.
Cheers, boys. Thanks a lot.